YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL free agency signing grades. We got all kinds of these videos out already, grading every single signing. Still a lot of solid free agents out there, so the news is still coming out. Still waiting on some contract details. A little slower pace free agency this year, so we'll continue to grade for the most part, but we're also starting different rankings based on free agency, and then we're getting into our draft coverage very, very soon. Really excited about that. We have a recent mock draft up, but things constantly changing as we're getting closer to the draft here. So we'll have you covered. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for all that content. Follow our Twitter for breaking news and more. Doing member mocks on walkthemock.com, as you see underneath me. Use code GOATHOUSE if you do sign up. Make sure you follow our Twitter for updates on that as well. Any link that you need will be pinned in the comments there. Here's our Twitter, just constantly talking. A lot of draft things going on with pro days coming out, talking numbers and breaking news, things like breaking everything down. So make sure you follow that. The first one, which was a few days ago, was Adoree Jackson. We kind of had to let some of these signings build up at this time before they were coming out rapidly. But a surprising one here from the other day. Adoree Jackson, wasn't surprising that he was going to the Giants. He was there for 2 days visiting. We knew that was going to happen, but surprising contract here, 3-year, $39 million, $13 million per year. I was not expecting that many years, and I was not expecting that much per year, mainly because of his injury concern. He started 2 games last year, 10 games the year before. He's only started every single game his rookie year. He's pretty talented, one of those corners that, felt the same as where I value him out of USC. Kind of relies on his athletic ability quite a bit, his speed, but does have upside, does show the flashes. I was just surprised about this deal. Yes, the Giants got better, because of it. Their secondary, here's my problem. They have so much money invested in the secondary. I think they could have invested a little more at the actual edge rush position. I don't think Adoree Jackson is going to make or break this team. The secondary is very good. Throwing Adoree Jackson there with injury concern, for $13 million, is it going to show that much of a difference? They have a load of talent back there, and they've invested. Some of these guys they drafted somewhat high or spent some money on. They're going to be backups, really. So, looking at it that way, it is a little confusing. He does have the upside factor. He can still be a lot better than where he is. That's a good thing. I guess because of the upside factor, I won't give him a terrible grade, but I'll give it a C-. It was more than I expected. It almost feels like one of those guys. I didn't even say that for Galladay. People were worried about injury concern with Galladay. I'm really not. I'm not too much. But Adoree Jackson, I kind of am. Minor injuries kept him out way longer than he should have been out. So that's the concerning part here. You invested so much here instead of there, and then there's some injury concerns. So not really thrilled with this one. On paper, the secondary is looking stronger, which it already was pretty strong. So much money invested in the secondary where it has to be elite. If it's not elite, it throw it away. It's a fail. And it all could be blown up, even if it is elite, if Daniel Jones isn't performing, so... I don't know about investing that much money in the secondary. Next, Mike Davis goes from the Panthers to the Falcons. It's 2-year, $5.5 million, $2.75 per year. This is the type of running back you get if you're looking to draft running back, which I kind of like. I like some of these running backs. There's not a long list of the solid running back. There's somewhat, but it doesn't really. Basically, you got to get it done by the end of day 2, probably by the second round here for the Falcons. But I like that for them. Their plan is a little obvious right now. That's the downside. But this is he was solid last year. I think he'll fit in with the Falcons. Arthur Smith's trying to do here. They're looking for a physical running back. I think they'll be looking to pair a guy like ETN, with Mike Davis. I think that's what they're going to go for. Perhaps the other guys would fit, but as well. But it's kind of just a hunch there. This is a really good kind of insurance back that will also play and give you some good reps at the same time. I like it. I'll give it an A. I like Mike Davis for the Falcons. It makes sense in that fit and what they're trying to add to the draft. Next, we got Kevin King goes back to the Packers, 1 year, $6 million. I don't think the Packers fans are thrilled about this one. He was kind of the guy that got a lot of the blame, and they wanted to replace him. The veteran corners left, I don't really think are that great of a fit. Looking at guys like Sherman and Hayward, strictly cover 3 guys, where the Packers do want to mix it up a bit, it seems. But you thought if they would get Kevin King back, it'd be for dirt cheap, $6 million per year, maybe a little more than expected, but they didn't have too many options here. this is the only move they made since free agency started, so it is pretty tough. He probably takes a little bit too much bashing than where he should. Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't, it wasn't great, his performance down the stretch of the season in the playoffs. Yeah, I thought it could be a little cheaper, to make him return. Were teams really after him for around, the 5-6 million range? I just don't think so. Not too much of not too many options out there. I give it a C+ here for Kevin King. In the Packers. Just thought it could have been cheaper. One of those guys that could have came back dirt cheap, I would have guessed, if he was going to come back to the Packers. But just a one-year deal. We'll see if they can add a corner in the draft. That's definitely a possibility. Kareem Jackson goes back to the Broncos. They decline his option. He becomes a free agent back to the Broncos. And the Broncos are kind of getting better in terms of the secondary. People kind of hyping that up, and they are. You had Kyle Fuller. Not thrilled with Darby, but you still kind of get better with that one. And you add that on top of Justin Simmons, on top of Callahan, who plays in the slot. And there's a reason to get hyped in the secondary, but then there was still a problem. They didn't have that strong safety because remember, Kareem Jackson was gone when they declined the option. And that's a big piece, that strong safety role for them, playing in the box quite a bit. So I wasn't all in quite yet, even though it's a great secondary, but they get Kareem Jackson back now. 1 year, $5 million, a hell of a deal here. Such a great fit. And I thought other teams could have used him, even paying a little more money. So I'm going to give this an A+, easy A+. It's a steal. He's up there in age, but he's such a key piece, playing in the box, pairs well with Justin Simmons. And, yeah, it's a good value pick up there. Good value pickup. So A+ there. Donovan Smith gets an extension, so I threw him in here. The extension was worth 2 year, $31.8 million, $15.9 million per year. It's a lot of money. It's seventh. In terms of left tackle, Donovan Smith's been kind of an inconsistent tackle over several years. 1 second showing flashes, that he's really good, and has his disappointing moments. But last year he was very consistent and very good. Maybe the Tom Brady effect. It is a lot of money, but obviously you want to keep a guy like this, with the group. You want to keep the group together. And what I really like here is that you 2-year deal. 2 year extra 2 years. I wouldn't like a giant extension here. Kind of makes sense. To continue on with, Tom Brady, these guys, the veteran guys here. So that would make sense. Yeah, that's what left tackles are getting paid these days. I'll give it a B+. Keeping the unit together, there was really no other option there. It is a lot of money, but, overall, sometimes it's okay to spend a lot of money. Every time you spend, it's not an overpay or anything like that. He was fantastic last year. You see the unit in general just starts to play a lot better when they find that final piece, and Tristan Wirfs and added a knowledgeable quarterback like Tom Brady, so it all worked out there. B+ for the Buccaneers. Speaking of the Buccaneers, you get Ndamukong Suh back, 1 year, $9 million. So yeah, this was a guy that they would actually lose. I thought they would get the other guys back, but I thought they would lose Suh, and they bring him back for a year. And it's kind of a good idea to kind of draft a guy to maybe learn behind Suh, and you can do that 1 year deal for $9 million. So that's right around the price range where he is, deserving of too. So, I think they, I'll give it an A-. It's obviously good. It's a good move. I think it's not something they absolutely had to do, even though it was pretty key for them last year. They could have got away with going with a cheaper guy with the draft specifically. Was definitely a possibility, but overall, this is a good deal. Draft a guy, have him learn behind him. And now we're going to go over a load of different contracts at the same time. Chargers add Adoree. Not a big fan of his game. It's a cheap deal, but, right now, is he the starter? I guess an insurance plan, but they had money, so I don't know if you're like desperate to go for one of these cheaper plans. So I don't know. I'm going to go C+. I just hope he's not starting. Titans signed Ty Sombrello. He was good filling in for them. It's a really good backup piece for them for, a cheaper option here. He would be better for some of the other teams as a starter. Titans got a good offensive line. He would start for the Chargers. It'd be a pretty good pickup, and they could have even paid. That's one example. The Chargers, they could have paid him a little more. I gave that one a B+. Texans signed Jordan Jenkins. It was 2 years, $6 million. I don't like the fit on this one. I think they're going to play him off ball. They signed plenty of off ball linebackers. Jordan Jenkins has been playing a pass rusher as an edge rusher in a 3-4. That's not what the Texans are about. They're going to run a 4-3 in this Lovie Smith scheme. He's a solid football player, $3 million a year, solid. I'm just not in love with the fit. They finally do a 2-year deal, and again, I'm not in love with the fit. It could be, could mean like Tyler Adams not back perhaps too, because I think they're going to play him off ball. Seattle signed Joe Haeg, 2-year, $4.6 million. Not a fan of this one. We were just talking about the Buccaneers when I was talking about Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith elevates his game. He gets better, stays consistent. Why? Because they find that last piece of the puzzle in Tristan Wirfs, and that kind of completes the unit. And they get Tom Brady controlling the offensive line. Every one of those guys are playing great. Guys were getting hurt. Aaron Stinney steps in, helps him win a Super Bowl. He was fantastic. Nobody even knew who that guy was. So basically, any guy you put in there for the Buccaneers just succeeded because the unit, because the coaching, because Tom Brady, again, complete unit, except for Joe Haeg. When Joe Haeg got that little trial, it was a disaster in there. So that is not a good look, especially the more I'm talking, I might have been generous with the D here because you give him $4.6 million in value. He might be a starter for the Steelers right now. That's a yikes right there. So the more I'm talking about it, the more I should have given an F, and not, I don't know. Bears signed Jeremiah Attaochu, 2-year, $5.5 million. I like this one. It's an A. He's a really good rotation pass rusher. Which they needed. He's not going to be a starter on any team, but I think they needed it because Khalil Mack's a guy, still very good. He needs a breather, quite a bit. And Robert Quinn was a little underwhelming, I thought, last year, which he could get things going. I just view him as a 4-3 fit. I wish the Bears would just switch to that, but they won't. Attaochu doesn't fit that defense anyways, but he fits their defense currently, what they're going to run. I think it's a really good rotation piece, which I think is important in that defense there. Bills get Isaiah McKenzie back. This is cheap, 1 year, $1.15 million. Gadget player for them. Not crazy important, but it gets an A. Seahawks get Ethan Posich, 1 year, $3 million. Yeah, he's been very disappointing, They gave him $3 million total. I think they spaced it out with void years, but why waste your time with this? That's why I'm not a big fan of this one. It's something that hasn't worked, and you're trying to get things that work for Russell Wilson up there. So why not go in and try to get that? They were a little limited in cap. They could have restructured deals, but they didn't. They didn't want to hurt their future. I guess that says, if they thought they would win right now with making these big moves, they would do it. So maybe they're still looking out for the near future, not really this year. But, yeah, I was surprised they kind of wasted their time with that one. Some more here. Circling back to some teams. Raiders go Andre James, 3-year, $12.5 million. They brought in Nick Martin as well, so that's why it was just confusing. But I guess they believe in James as their center of the future. A guy that doesn't really have any reps underneath them, guys that maybe that we're not sure about. I guess they're sure about their depth. Give $12.5 million in total value out. Little concerning, but you did overall get cheaper at the position, which I'm not a guy that's going to value center all that much. If you can find a cheaper one, just get a guy that can snap the ball, keep the guy in front of him, build everything around him. He'll be better. So that's why I didn't flunk them or anything close to that. Falcons get Barkevious Mingo, solid rotation guy, 1 year, 1.25, too many numbers, B- here. Giants get Ryan Anderson. Yeah, this feels like a waste of time here. I don't mind Ryan Anderson. He's still got some upside, a Bama guy. He's kind of one of those guys that, what is he? Is he inside? Is he outside? He can rush the passer, but it feels like an off-the-ball guy. And the Giants can move him around and use in different spots, but they have so many guys, like so many rotation guys. They just need to get better in some spots, So they just have a list of these guys. So I just don't know. Maybe they depth guys in the D-line because they're set with the studs on the D-line, So it just, it's not a bad contract, not a bad upside player here. It just feels like a waste. Eagles go Joe Flacco. Another thing that feels like a waste to me, 1 year, $3.5 million. The Eagles were very short on cap space. Was this something you had to do? Give Joe Flacco $3.5 million to be a mentor to Jalen Hurts? You shouldn't be dying to get a mentor in there. You shouldn't, spend your money on, get a cheaper linebacker. They need linebackers galore. There's some good linebackers sitting out there that actually might be cheaper. Spend that 3.5 on a starting linebacker. It just doesn't make any sense. Some of these teams overvalue getting a veteran mentor guy in there. So I don't know. D+ there. Seahawks with a couple more signings. Benson Mayowa, 2 year, $8.8 million. He was pretty solid for them. I gave it a B because he was solid for them. And they signed Kerry Hyder too, 3 years, $16.5 million. These are max deals, so we haven't really got the base value. Hearing Hyder actually could be a 2 year, the third year is a void year. That could be a little better, but it just seems like some of those deals were, I'm okay with the Mayoa deal. He was all right for them last year. Hyder was pretty productive for the Niners, really his only productive year. It kind of felt like he was scheme dependent there with the Niners. So Seahawks have had the opposite. They plug guys in and expect them to be a lot better than they were. It felt like Dunlap was, Carlos Dunlap, I mean, they had to cut him to save that money, but if you're going to spend $16.5 million in total value, work on a deal with Dunlap, extend him a couple years. He was so good for them and space that money out. You're making void deals as it is. I just think this is a waste, You're settling for the middle of the pack guys, maybe underneath that, It just feels like they don't want to be great this year. And, they didn't restructure any deals, and, I'm not a big fan of restructuring deals for teams like this, so I kind of agree with it. Because I don't want to hurt your future. I don't know if the Seahawks roster, they got some studs. They got some talented guys, so they're always in the hunt but the roster doesn't really say Super Bowl now, and the Seahawks are kind of telling me that by not restructuring deals and going big, but at the same time, you're kind of wasting your time, I think, with some deals like this. The pass rush is pretty atrocious. Hopefully some of these young guys step up. Patriots get James White, 1 year, 2.5. He's a key piece to their team, key receiving piece from that backfield. I like that he's back there. That's an A deal for me. And we got a few more here. Panthers, this was an old one, but the details finally came out. Denzel Perriman. All of a sudden, people were hyping up Denzel Perriman. I'm like, oh, God, is somebody going to overpay him? Because a bunch of teams were interested. He was kind of getting hyped up by reporters. I'm like, he was getting less and less snaps as the days went on for a reason. Well, he didn't fit the Gus Bradley's scheme, really, but so I was starting to get worried, but that ended up being this deal. So this kind of makes sense. It actually ends up being a little cheaper than what I expected. So I gave it an A. I think he'll fit the Panthers defense, so he actually could be better than where he was playing. He's a freaky dude, too, so he's got some upside. I was just getting worried all of a sudden the way people were talking about him. I thought he was going to get some like $10 million per year, so I was getting a little scared. But yeah, this ended up being pretty good. Colts get Sam Tevi, 1 year, $2.51 million. That's another, it just feels like a waste here. It's a very small amount of money. It's an insurance plan, but this tells me they're going to draft a guy. That's a different discussion, because where they sit in the draft, I don't really like the fits. It feels like they're going to have to reach. Maybe they have to move up a little bit, then they can be fine. So that's a different discussion, but it kind of plays into just getting a very small insurance plan. It's kind of a go big or go home. Like if you're getting a guy like this, you're confident you're finding your starter in the draft. So why waste your time? You have the cap space to get an Eric Fisher, to get somebody like that, and even make him an insurance plan at a little more expensive. So, it just feels like kind of a waste. He's going to be a backup for them. They have the cap space, so it doesn't do that much damage. But if you got the cap space, make yourself a championship team, use the cap space. So I just really don't understand what the Colts are doing. This offseason. The Jaguars get C.J. Beathard just a little bit ago, 2 year, $5 million. I'd rather keep Gardner Minshew. I guess they're going to trade him and get a pick as we projected, but I've never been a Beathard guy. $2.5 million per year. It's somewhat cheap. It's just, I don't know. Did you need this guy to back up Trevor Lawrence? Like, it's just, it's just another one that feels like, did you have to do it? Never really been a big fan of his game. I thought there was a good reason why Mullins was always ahead of him on the depth chart, but solid backup, sure. I'm just not in love with it, so I gave it a C. So there's more signings happening after they build up again. We can come back to this, but we're ranking all kinds of moves. We already have for free agency, talk about winners, losers, which team will eventually talk about which teams got better, stayed the same, got worse, and then a load of NFL draft content already getting ready for that. I'm excited. My favorite, the most wonderful time of the year, for real, for here at the Goat House. So can't wait to cover that. Join us for that. Subscribe, turn notifications on, smash the like button, follow us on Twitter. Check out all those links in the comments section pinned there at the top. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.